as I imagine it, in some part of your life, at some point, you had to make a step, a particular step. And sometimes this is what I miss, even from my life and in some of the clients, that particular step is not really easy. However, doing it, it's not a big deal, but still, somehow you need to make that first step. My question is, what's a real motivation to do something differently, even if it's a small step?
Will go a long way in your life, because we tend to have a bad inner world and expect the outer world to fulfill it. And that is horrible, because no one is going to save us. No one is going to give us enough love that we need. We give it to ourselves first, and then we give more. You need to fill your own cup, and then when it's overflowing, to share it.
I am Peter Rillich, business coach. With this podcast series, I will address leadership topics with my guests, how you can relate your personal values and goals to find the best solutions for leadership issues. This podcast is about how to reinvent yourself. We're going to address a couple of questions around that. First, how to define it, what we really mean by that with my guest today. And then we also will address a couple other questions like when you feel that probably you need some change in your life, how to approach it. What could be a really good reason to do that? What you can expect from outside? What help you can use to do that? My guest is Dr. Vanessa Moussa. She is a mindset and stress management coach. Actually, we met during a coaching training course, and I learned some about her story, and it made me decide that I want to definitely talk to her about how reinvention works, and because most people sometimes feel something like that during their life. Probably I need to change something. I have a job, probably it's great, but probably there is something more in life for me. So, and she went through on that, and this is what makes her a really good person to talk about. My first question would be, Vanessa, how would you define reinvention someone's life?
First of all, thank you so much, Peter, for inviting me to the podcast. I'm so honored and happy to be here. And as you said, when we met, it was crazy because we were both on the same path, right, of reinvention in different parts of the world. You were in Hungary and I'm here in Dubai. So reinvention for me is really to discover yourself more and more, right? Because when you're going through a reinvention, I think you're removing a layer, or you're discovering a layer about yourself. I think you're just exploring a new place, and then how you explore it is kind of like you're reinventing yourself, right? Because you are becoming a bigger part of yourself. And in life, sometimes we're taught of society, of how we grow up, that we need to be a certain way and that's it. But then when we reach that part, especially high achievers, ambitious people like ourselves, we feel like, okay, that's awesome, but I need more. Right? And we feel like we're shedding an older layer and we're starting a newer layer. And this is for me what reinvention is, to really explore new parts of yourself and to grow more so that you explore the most that you can about yourself and become the best version that you can possibly be.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I also experienced that. And sometimes I had a feeling that now I need to do something because it's not really correct what's going on with me. I felt it a couple of times in my life. Like the society, parents, probably even teachers dictated a couple course of my life, and I wanted to do something else. At that time, it was kind of hard to find out what I really want to do. And I had to be really strict to myself to keep the focus. And this is what I want to do. One of the first one was when I wanted to go for university, and it wasn't really obvious that I will get there because my grades was really bad actually. And in Hungary that time, it was really difficult to get into a university because you had to pass a really serious entrance exam. And for the first time, I failed completely. badly, really badly. And then I had to decide, and I decided that now I want to do that. So I spent a whole year to preparing myself. And actually I went through on a whole book, completing every exercise in the book, because I knew that they use the book to choose the entrance exam exercises. So I decided to complete every one of them to prepare myself 100%. And yeah, finally I was able to get into the university. And it happened many times to my life that I wanted to do something else. So can you tell us a example when you felt that you want to do something else and you had a plan and you executed that?
Amazing. I love this question. It's because I reinvented myself a couple of times in my life. So just to give a backstory for people who are watching us, listening to us. So I was born in Australia and from a Lebanese family, and I moved to Lebanon when I was 4, where I grew up, till I was 18. Now, growing up in Lebanon in the 90s was hard, especially for me because my parents were divorced. I was in a Catholic school, that type of environment. So it was a taboo a bit. So I knew when I wanted to be 18, I wanted to leave the country and to become an independent woman and take care of myself and my mom if ever she would need me in the future. So that's what I did. I think at 18, I left the country and I went to Cluj-Napoca, which is not far from you, where I did dental school. Now, dentistry wasn't honestly my personal choice. I wanted to be a psychologist for athletes. I was niched down already, but I couldn't because as a young girl, especially in Lebanon, we don't have so many resources outside the family to create what we want, especially back then as well. It's not like today. So I did what my family wanted for me, which was to be a dentist. So I did dentistry. I was the top of my class. And then when I finished, at that point, I also wanted to reinvent myself. I was supposed to go to Italy in Torino to work for my stepdad at the time. He was a dentist, but he wasn't a great person, and I knew that. So I wanted to invent myself and to be independent. So I followed my university boyfriend at the time. He lived in Reunion Island. He was a tropical boy. It's a French island in the Indian Ocean, so it's next to Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, that part of the world. And it was French, so I didn't have to learn a new language again. So it was exactly what I wanted. So after university, I told my family I want to move with him and I want to go to that part of the world and I want to work as a dentist there. So I went there and I worked as a dentist. We opened a clinic together. So I was really, shaping myself in the dentistry world. But what happened, again, 6 years later, I wanted to reinvent myself. What happened is that when I was working as a dentist, because it wasn't truly what I wanted, I felt before I'd never had a choice because of the circumstances, society, and all. And as I started to work and make money and feel more freedom, I felt I had more choice. But then my mom divorced again from that man, and it was really tough for her. And I had to take care of her financially. So I put my desires aside and focused on my family. Now, my mom is in the US with my brother, so they're happy and independent. And when they moved, that was the time I could focus on myself and see what I want. But what happened there, Peter, which was really hard, and I really want to mention that, is that when you don't focus on yourself for so long and you hustle and grind and be resilient, especially when you are an immigrant. I mean, I know that because we moved to other countries to prove our worth, prove our place. You have so many stress, you have so much emotions that you suppress because you don't want to show them off as not good enough, you're not strong enough. And what happened is that when my mom moved and I had finally that moment that I was waiting for to reinvent myself, I was completely depressed and burned out because I had the mindset at the time that only when I have time, I can do this. Only when everything is perfect, I can go. So it was really ironic because I had the perfect life on the outside. I was living in the tropics. I had a great man in my life. My family was finally safe and happy. I could, I had a good job. I could finally focus on what I want, but I couldn't. So I felt depressed and I felt really burned out. And with that, I couldn't even listen to myself back then. I was like, I'm not strong enough. So I felt guilty that I'm not enjoying, I'm not grateful, right, of this life. So I forced myself to keep on going because it's going to get better. And it didn't. It got worse and worse until the point I was completely depressed. I couldn't get out of bed. I had this stress in my stomach when I used to go to work. And this was the moment that I knew that I have to focus on my mental health and I have to focus on what I truly want and no longer live for others, but live for myself. Because it's not selfishness. When you are good with yourself, everybody sees it and you radiate that joy around you. So that's what I did. So I focused on myself and I moved to Dubai. This is where I am now, another move. And I wanted to move to Dubai because it was a city, English, it was international, it was for high achievers like myself. The island was beautiful, but there's a limit how much it can offer you as opportunities and to grow mostly. And this is my last transition now that I did, coming here to Dubai, and I followed my initial passion, that was psychology. Now, I didn't want to go back to school, as you know, going back to university, studying for another 6 years. So I heard about coaching, and this is where I entered the world of coaching, and it was exactly the thing I wanted in my life. So since then, I've become a professional coach, and I've been doing this full time ever since. Now it's 3 years now that I'm here.
Yeah, so yeah, it's perfect. Yes, hearing your story again, and I learned a lot again about you. It's so great that you made significant steps. And my question would be, as I imagine it, in some part of your life, at some point, you had to make a step, a particular step. And sometimes this is what I miss, even from my life and in some of the clients, that particular step is not really easy. However, doing it's not a big deal, but still, somehow you need to make that first step. My question is, what's a real motivation to do something differently, even if it's a small step? How do you approach that? How was your feeling around that? What have you done actually to make the first step toward the next transition?
Great. I mean, the thing that happened to me, which I am also telling my clients not to do, and the people as much as possible, is not to wait when it's too late. Okay? I like it. It rhymes even. Don't wait until it's too late.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that once you don't believe in yourself and you don't have self-confidence and you have inner doubts, there's a part of you, your gut tells you when you want to change. We all know that moment. And if you don't know it about work, I'm sure at some moment with someone, like in an ex-partner, an ex-relationship, that you felt things are not going well, we need to break up, but you don't know when to do it, right? But that feeling, that feeling that we all have had, each person has it differently, but that feeling when you feel it, when people who know who they are, they act on it. And people who don't, like they don't trust themselves or they need validations from others, the people pleasers, like I used to be, I would wait for other people to give me permission, or worse, wait until I'm really not well and then go for it. So this is also in healthcare. Like I used to be a dentist, right? So people would come in with big abscesses in their mouth. And it was so easy to prevent this. It's just to go to your dentist once a year and check yourself out. It could avoid all these problems. So it's the same actually in your life. Don't wait for that big abscess to happen. So when you feel that feeling and you're kind of, oh, I can't do this. Who am I to do this? I'm not good enough to do this. Because you feel that feeling. The first thing I tell people is that start researching it. You don't have to change anything yet. Just be aware of it and explore it a little bit, either by researching it or hiring a coach actually that will help you discover what that is. Because getting a coach is not going to change drastically anything right away. You can just be where you are and just have a conversation with someone that is unbiased. Because when you share that with someone that is in your life, they will tell you what they think you should do from their perspective.
Yes,
even if
exactly.
they mean well, even if they love you and they mean well. Just if you have these doubts, keep going, but then hire a coach. One session could give you so much clarity. Just 2 hours with a professional could just help you so much instead of, like me, wait until things get bad and then hire someone. And then the damage is much bigger, and then you have to work much more to get there.
Yeah. Actually, how do you start that conversation with the client?
The conversation of that feeling.
Yes.
So first of all, I mean, when people do come, I feel like when people do take the action of having a discovery call, a clarity call with a coach, they are already there are people who want to take action. even, or like that action doesn't have to be a physical action, but they're ready to be done with this feeling. They are in the I'm done with this feeling. Like I'm done feeling like this, I'm done being lost, I'm done being stuck. I really want to understand what's going on. So they already are people who are ready for a change, and they are ready to do whatever it takes for that change.
Yeah.
Now, when they come in, if they come in overwhelmed and completely stressed out, we first calm the nervous system down. You need to calm your body. You need to feel safe in your body first to be able to explore more far. Because when you are stressed, your body is going to put you in a survival mode. So you're going to only think right now. It's kind of like you're at home and you're in danger. You're going to just think about how can I get out of it? You're not going to think, okay, when I get out, what do I do? What's next step? So first we calm the system down because I work a lot with stressed people. The second thing we do is values. Values is so crucial because before we get to the feeling and all of that, I just need to explore who they are. Like, who are you? What are your values? And Peter, I don't know for you, but whenever I do values with each and every client, they get like so amazed because first they didn't even know that they had values. Second, when they do it, it's like they know 2, 3 values. But when we do the work for like a good 2 hours, they'd be like, oh my God, that's me on paper. And now I understand why I'm lost, why I'm stuck, why I'm angry, why I'm happy, what things work. So they get to know who they are first. So values is the first big step that we do to help them with that feeling.
Yes, and I also experience how much bias are there around values. Sometimes people say that, oh, this is my value, but sometimes it turns out that probably not that much. And as you mentioned, sometimes they don't really follow the values; they follow something else, and sometimes it's not really relates to each other. And sometimes when they feel that something is not correct, probably it roots back to the values. They not really respect their own values. So that's why I really love discover values first, as just you mentioned, because it gives so much, and this gives a really huge base to start from. That whenever the clients understand their values, they know where to start. The picture gets a little bit more clear, and they find that, oh, probably this is why I'm doing this, or oh, this is why I feel bad doing this. However, I do that regularly, but it's not really aligned with my values. Yeah.
100%. Because when you're not aligned with your values is who you are. It's everything about you. It's your blueprint of you as a person. It's kind of your personality in words, like honesty, justice, respect. Every person has it different. And even if, for example, ask someone in your life, it could be a friend or a partner. For example, let's say love, okay? What are the 5 ingredients that makes love for you or success? And you would see it's different for everybody. No one has the same 5 ingredients for a specific value, for example. So everybody is unique, and you need to live aligned with your values. If not, you feel something is not right and something is completely wrong. And the longer you stay there, it's not going to help. You have to take action.
What would you recommend to someone who feels something it's not 100% correct, or they say themselves that, okay, that's good enough for me. Yeah, this is how life works. Life probably it's not really great to me, but I accept it. I really feel great opportunities in those situations. What would you recommend for those guys, how to approach that situation?
Yeah, so for, like these are kind of like limiting beliefs, right? Like life has to be hard. It's hard to make money. You need to be married to be happy, things like that, right? Which it could be great if it's something that you believe in, and that's awesome. But if it's something that it's not working for you, then you have to ask questions. Because as I always say, you are the creator of your current circumstance. Especially if you live in a situation that, if you're watching this, means you have resources to research, right? If you're watching this, you're hearing this, you're on a phone, you're on a computer or an iPad, I don't know, but you have resources. So if you're unhappy, it's because of you. If you're happy, it's also you. So you are the creator of your current circumstance. Now, it's always easy to give excuses. Like we call it, in our coaching world, being the victim, right? Like life happens to me. I don't do anything. It's in effect like, I live in this country, so we don't have opportunities. This is, this is everybody, like if you're married and unhappy, yeah, everybody's unhappy. Who's married and happy? Example, things like that. So the first thing I would ask is, how is that really helping you? If you feel this way and because it depends. Some people could be lost and they just need some safety and stability, and that could actually be good for them. For example, I had a client, she was a freelancer, a singer, and then she started to work in a university. And she was confused and like, is it going to be good for me or not? She started to say, oh, it's just good enough. I cannot be a singer and make so much money. It's good enough just to be in the university. But she was still confused. So she hired me as a coach. And when we did values, actually with values, we talked about financial independence. That was one of her top values at the time. And actually, the university job provides her with that financial independence that is aligned with her values. So she was like, no, actually, this is really good for me, this university, because I can have the finances that I want. And the singing thing, I can do it as a side hustle and I will enjoy it even more. Because before she was hustling to get singing gigs, COVID happened, it was really hard for artists. But with university, when she finally understood that this is where she actually wants to be, she loved it and she got promoted in 6 months. So it was crazy because when you're having these questions, it could be good for you or not, you just don't know. Hire yourself a coach, get that clarity out of the way, and then you're good.
We had a kind of discussion before the podcast, and you mentioned a really great approach. And let me bring it here again. So it was, you also experienced transitions and life invention from two perspectives. One of them when it kind of forced, which is when you need to do that. There is some outside reason for that, or you do it by your own because it's an option to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you experienced both sides of that?
Yeah, that's a really good topic, right? When we discuss, because it's something similar to you. Like I transitioned in my life, and every time I went through a transition, it was a different country, different people, everything was different. And for you, you were in the same country. So I also want to know, after your perspective, when you're in the same country and you're transitioning, how does it look like? So in my case, I had two transitions, as you mentioned. One that was forced. For example, my family wanted to leave the country, so I had no option. So I have to move with my family for better opportunities and all of these things. Or for example, in other situations, not in mine, but in my clients, like they get fired or they get through a divorce or something, like a big something happened like that. And that's a kind of a forced transition. And then the second one, where I decided to leave dentistry, which was the hardest decision I ever had to do, and move to another country and figure out what I truly want and actually go for it. After spending 12 years, my whole adult life at this point, dedicated to dentistry, from 6 years in university and 6 years in the actual, like, practicing it. So that was hard. So when you're transitioning kind of forced, I find it always kind of easier for people because, yeah, I mean, it happened to me. It's like we say in Arabic, khalas, it happened. I have no choice. I have to move forward anyway. But once you choose, I think it's harder because you have to think about it. You have to think about all the outcomes. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. And worst of all is that when you take a decision like that, for people, it's very hard for people around you because for them it's like not normal and you're outside of the mold. And okay, and they always tell you how it's going to go bad. They want to protect you sometimes, and sometimes they're scared of doing it. So something I talked about in my TEDx talk, actually, just a few months back when I did my first TEDx, is how when you're leaving the comfort zone, what awaits you, right? So when you leave the comfort zone, there's the fear zone. And after the fear zone, there's the learning zone and the magic zone. That's something that we know. But in my experience, I noticed that the longer you stay in the comfort zone, the smaller it gets and the more painful it gets. While the fear zone gets bigger and bigger, and it's much harder for you to do that leap. Like for me, I waited 12 years to do it. So of course, it's going to be really hard for me to take that step. But what I talked about in my TEDx is that you have to focus on your inner world. It's your inner world that creates your outer world. Inner world means like your thoughts, how you talk to yourself, the world that you have within yourself. And the outer world is your circumstance, your environment, and everything. So when you do a transition like that, that is pretty much, by choice, the fear zone is pretty scary because you don't have the right support there, like you were talking about right before. So when you transition, either forced or not forced, you have a fear zone. If you're fired, right, you're scared because you have to find a job. So there's a fear zone. But maybe here people be like, yeah, it's normal. Don't worry. You can find another job. It's going to be okay. But if you decide to leave your perfect job, right, be like, oh, why did you do this? Oh my God, I would have never done this. Are you sure? Did you look for something else? And then you're already scared and the fears, and you're already there. So the support is not the same when you choose or when you not choose. Some people do have it when they actually choose, they're lucky. But most people, like the real support will be maybe two people. But when everybody is complaining, right, it's easy to find people around you to complain with. Like, yeah, job is bad, this is bad. It's so easy to find people in that fear zone. But when you're doing it alone, you go through the fear zone as well. And it is a scary one because it could be a lonely one sometimes. And this is where also coaching is so important. Like when you are in the fear zone like this, you don't have to struggle so much. It's already a struggle and you're already confused and you're overthinking every single day. I don't know for you, but I know for you that when you did the transition, you overthink this decision every single day until you get to the magic. Like, did I do the right choice? You're doubting yourself all the time. And we could have also paralysis by analysis. We analyze too much and we don't know if we're taking the right step. So it's really long, that process. But once you're out of it and you're exploding, like you are so good. Yeah. But during that time, it's hard, that first step. So what I recommend people is that, first of all, before you get that decision to actually leave, hire yourself a coach before. Me, I did the opposite way. I left and then I hired a coach, and it was good. It helped me a lot, but it was hard because I was already out and I was doing new country, new career. I was having problems at home. It was a tough place. So what I would recommend before you do that big change, because it's a choice, right? So you can wait another month or two. It could be something you can wait. Hire yourself a coach. Know exactly, so you have at least a good battle plan when you leave. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy when you leave it, but at least you have the right tools that will help you with these thoughts, the overthinking, the self-doubt, the confidence. Like you turn every challenge into an opportunity instead of life is teaching me all the time, right? You can have a success plan. You can gain a few years actually, because the stress that you go through affects your health very much. So that's what I would recommend.
Yes, perfectly. Yeah. Back to your question, how it worked for me, staying in the same country. To be honest, it looks like to me that probably it wasn't really different. However, it's huge that I lived always in a kind of safe place. So physically, it was absolutely safe. And from a financial perspective, yes, we always had something to eat and shelter and stuff like that. But however, I always had a kind of feeling that it's not abundant. So we are not really able to do a lot of stuff and our resources are really limited. But when I went through on changes in my life, first, what I learned is that I'm alone. It was a kind of contradictory stuff that I went through on a lot of change, and I had the feeling that I need to find out what to do. I don't have anyone to talk to, and I need to go for it. I need to be strong enough. So during my first half of my life, I would say, whenever I did a change, I did it alone. I was completely alone. When I decided to leave the university, actually I worked for a university for 5 years, an assistant professor. And there was a really promising future ahead of me, doing some research and creating publications and stuff like that, going for conferences and everything else, and teaching actually. And then I felt that it's probably not for me anymore. I actually watched my professors and people ahead of me, and I asked the question whether I want to be like them in the future or not. And I decided probably not, because it's not for me. And I felt alone again, as just you said. I got many negative feedbacks from outside that, are you nuts? Are you crazy? Are you giving up a position like that? And I said, yes. And I started with a small step. Actually, it was reading a job advertisement in an actual newspaper. It was in a newspaper. There was an ad. Okay, we are looking for guys for that and that company. And I felt, oh, probably I should try it. It was completely different. It was a US-based company in a position I didn't know anything about. It was something completely new to me. And I decided, why not? I can go for the job interview. What can happen? I will be there. If they say no, I will go back to the job I already had. Or if they say yes, there will be a couple other steps in the interview process, so I can decide whenever I want to quit if it doesn't fit to me. But actually, it was really great to see how they showed me a different world. It was completely different. It was a US-based international large company with so many opportunities. Actually, I got the opportunity to travel to the US to learn. I spent a couple of months there, so I experienced that. So I stepped into that, and I made another step, and then I came to a point when I had to say at the university that, hey guys, I'm going to leave, because I joined another world to me. But during the whole process, I really felt alone. So as you mentioned, it would have been so great to be able to talk to someone who is not really related to me, not a friend, not my parent, or nobody who has a formal experience with me. It would have been great to talk to someone who would be willing to explore who I am really, and without any bias, let me find out what I really want to do, what I really enjoy, what my real values are, what my real goals, what my strengths, and what my weaknesses. And it would have been great to be able to discover where I feel good and what I need to work on, or what I can leave behind. I don't need to work on that anymore. So I joined that company. I was really successful. I enjoyed that. But after a while, I had to realize that probably there are some parts of my activities which is really great, I really enjoy, but there are other parts I don't really like. So I sacrificed a little bit my life from that perspective. So I sacrificed some time and effort dealing with stuff I don't really like to be able to do the stuff I really wanted to enjoy. After a while, I realized that probably I can reduce the don't like part of my life. And it was a really great moment when I realized that. However, I had to make a huge change again. So then I decided to leave the company, and I joined our family company, actually. It was a kind of forced change because my father decided that he didn't want it to do it anymore too much. So I had to step in, actually. But we made a lot of steps to let the whole family find out what they really want. And after a while, we decided that we want to sell the company because it's basically just for money. However, we spent a lot of time, a lot of effort. My father spent basically his whole life with that company. But still, it was basically almost only for money. So it was a kind of joint decision. My whole family made the decision that we want to sell it. And we made that step. And meanwhile, I also started to work on something else. And as you said, I also met the idea of coaching and that profession. So it was so great to experience that. that I realized that probably this is what I wanted to do in my whole life. This is why I was a teacher at the university. This is why I was a manager at the company, because I enjoyed this is how I call it right now, serve people from a positive perspective, let them know what they want to do. And it was really exciting to see guys around me evolving, like leaving the university, joining a company as a intern, and then get a full position and to be able to get married and stuff like that. So this is what I really enjoyed to see around me. So it was a kind of basic value to me that I define my success through other guys' successes. This is my core. But I had to spend almost 20 years in my life to find that out, that this is what I really want to do.
Beautiful, because really, I mean, everybody, as you said, has their own purpose in life. And something I noticed is that, you know, when you evolve, of course, you want to be surrounded by the same type of people to grow, to be better entrepreneur whatsoever. But something I noticed is that when you are truly living the life that you want, aligned with your values, who you are, you're completely fulfilled, and you wake up every morning excited and happy to live the life that you created for yourself, the same type of happiness is the same for everybody. For example, I'm here in Dubai doing my entrepreneurship, being coaching and everything. And I have a friend of mine, she's in Reunion, she's Spanish, she has a child, she's working as a physiotherapist in a hospital, you know, the stable job and everything, and she loves it. And I love what I do. So we're actually different people, but when we meet and we talk, because she loves her life and I love my life, we are so good. We have good energy. But when people don't like their life or they're not aligned, and someone who's completely aligned, the negative person either is inspired and is like, oh my God, you are so great. I love that energy and I want the same like you. Or they will become energy vampires. They want to take from your energy and pull you down with them. So it depends that person where they go. Now, you know, when people wanted to be all influencers, you know, the travel thing on Instagram that came up, a lot of people want that because they say they want to travel and the freedom. But actually being a travel influencer is not that easy. You have to go and hustle, get hotel deals and all of that. So I ask sometimes clients when they say that, I want to leave everything and travel the world. I was like, what do you actually like about what you see? Is it the hustle and grind to get there? Or they say, I like to travel, I like to have that freedom. It's like, yeah, but you have to know what's under it. So that's what you're saying as well. Like once you understand yourself clearly and live your life aligned to you, it's such an amazing energy and you'll attract people who are like you, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah, it reminds me a client. Recently, I met a girl actually, and she said something like she wanted to become a leader, a manager, and but she wasn't able to do that, and that's why she was thinking of hiring a coach. And we started to talk, and I asked her about leadership position, what she knew about that, and how she imagined herself in the position. And it turned out that she wasn't able to tell me a single activity what a leader does. She didn't know anything about that. It was really surprising because that girl is a amazing, really intelligent, works at a position, and obviously she has a manager, so she should have some idea around what a manager does, but she wasn't able to tell anything about that. Sometimes we feel that we want to do something and we see the positive sides of that, or we have some ideas around that, but we don't know too much about that and we don't know the background. So that's why it can be really important to take the time and find out what you really want to do. And one way, as you mentioned, to talk to a coach, because the coach can help you to find out what you really want to do, what really drives you, what the motivation to plan a kind of change. And if you're able to express yourself in a really safe environment where you are really heard there is no bias. No one wants to tell you what to do. No one wants to teach you something. Then you can probably express yourself really and explore where you want to really go.
Yeah, no, you're saying it correctly. And for me, since I work with, highly ambitious people, the thing about them is like they're always ready to go on, like it's like a marathon, right? They run the marathon and ready to go again and again. And they're always in burnout, right? Right now, even if you love what you do, you can go into burnout. So the thing is that your energy is so sacred. Like people don't understand that some people give their energy away for everybody, right? You have to know your energy is sacred, and you need to know exactly before, like you're saying, why are you doing this? First, know who you are. And this is what I teach in my Aywa method. That's what I do. So first know who you are, why, get to know your purpose, and then the how is easy. With a clear and focused you, a clear and focused why, the how is easy. But everybody goes for the how first. They run for the how, and then they get lost in the how. They think once I do the how, I'm going to figure out my purpose. I'm going to discover who I truly am doing that. It's the opposite. You know who you are. You have to discover that first, really aligned, and get that why. Why are you doing this? Why are you going through all that hustle for? Why are you going to go through all that change for? What's the purpose behind this? And then you go for it. But people, when they go for it and they don't know why, they get lost, they get confused, they have self-doubt, then they start to question, and then they get tired and they get stressed, and then they have to change their life and they don't know next again what to do. So stop all of that, know what you want, like you said, Peter, get a clear purpose, and then go for it.
Yeah. I really like the way we talk about the whole transition and life invention. Probably we also can talk about how does it look like when you are really there. So yeah, there is a kind of problem, there is a kind of process, what you can do. There are a lot of, sometimes work you need to put in actually, but there is a reward. So my question is, what do you think, what will anybody feel after they make the work and make the steps toward a real goal aligned with personal values? So what's a real benefit and result?
I think the first thing is that you get to understand yourself better, right? Because when you do the work with a coach, the first thing which is like, it's an investment. You're investing in something that is sustainable, by the way. Like when you understand yourself, all that you go through when you do this, you're not going to go through it again this hard way anymore, because you got to know yourself so well. Because when you do it alone and you're doing it blindly just to get to that satisfaction, the only when, right? Like I was saying, only when I have that much money, I'll be happy. Only when my kids go to school, I can focus on myself, for example. Like everybody has a different only when, right? When you do that, it's like you're limiting your value to something on the outside. And then if you notice, when you do this type of process, the satisfaction, as you're saying, the reward is really short. Like you work so hard and then you do it and then like, okay, now what? You don't even enjoy it. But exactly, right? But when you do the inner work first, you work on yourself, the reward is continuous because you know yourself, like you know how you function, like this is a inner critic, right? Like this is the judge in my head that is telling me not good enough, not me. It's a critic that I created when I was a kid, and you get to understand why you think this way, how you think, and you also understand your body better. You understand your emotions, because your brain is always going to put you in survival mode, but your body is what suffers. So you start to respect your body better. You start to follow, you do somatic work, you understand how to process your stress. What are the ways that makes you, as a person, the best performer? So whatever you decide to do, you perform at your best because you know your limits. Like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm bad at. And if there's something you want to know how, you'll know how to get there. You're not confused and lost, and you know your inner value. Like your value with yourself gets so big that anything on the outside is an extra. It's not like you hustle and you achieve, like your values are not linked to your achievements anymore. You know your value, you know why you're doing this. You also know that you're going to go through a new season in your life, but this time, instead of going through that hard part, you know what to do. like, okay, let me go back to my values. What were my values? What are my values in this season of my life? Because they change as well, because we all have values, but the top 5 changes from now and then, depending on what you're prioritizing in your life. Yeah. So now okay, I'll start with values. Okay, this is a limiting belief. This is a critic. What do I need to do? You know how to say no to things. You know how to create healthy boundaries, right? Like it's so crucial to understand who you are and be the best performer. So this is what I believe is the best reward. You get to know yourself so that it's sustainable. Anytime you're going to go through a change, you're not scared anymore. You're no longer, oh my God, what do I need to do next? I actually know. And if I don't know, I know what to do to get to know it. Like you have this amazing self-mastery. You master who you are and you master your stress, and you're a leader in your life. You self-lead, like you can lead the life that you want whenever you want it.
Yeah, it reminds me stories like many leader and project managers and entrepreneurs has a really interesting task on their list: celebrate the result. And it's really great from 2 perspectives. One of them is if they need to put it in their calendar or the list of tasks, do they really celebrate it or not? So sometimes I really felt that they celebrate it because they need to celebrate it, because someone told them that they should celebrate it. So it means to me that probably they are not in the right spot. They are not doing what they really enjoy because they had to put in the celebration. So they don't really enjoy what they are doing. They say that, okay, there will be a certain point that I will celebrate, that I will open a bottle of wine or whatever. But they don't really enjoy the whole process. As you mentioned, there is one reward somewhere at the end of the project, but there is no other reward during the whole process, what they are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You have to know yourself first, right? Yeah, and some people need that reminder. Like for some clients of mine, people who are like human giver syndrome, we call it, like they give to other people first. I remind them you have to give to yourself. And sometimes if you put it on your calendar, it could be also a reminder. Don't forget, celebrate the small wins. Don't forget. The people who are always giving, because I work a lot with women, and I'm sure the women who are hearing this will go like, yes, that's pretty much us. We focus on everybody else first, and then we focus on us. So I always tell them, remember, put that in your calendar if you forget, and to celebrate the small wins.
Yeah. What do you think, how important can be to be aware of life changes and transitions for a leader, for a manager?
Wow. The thing is with a leader, it's important to know the vision for a leader, because there's a difference between a leader and a manager. A manager just manages and wants everybody to be performing at its best, and it's a very huge responsibility job. A leader has a vision. He has a vision, and he needs to have people around him or her know that vision and perform, right? So it's like a leader and a manager. They could be 2 separate people or 2 same people, right? But he has to know, and he has to see the energy he's bringing, because a leader, he leads from the front and the back. It's not like I'm the dictator in a sense, or the manager, there's always in the front, right? Like do this, do that, and that's it. Leader, he's leading from the front and leading from the back, kind of like, the birds when they're migrating. They migrate like I think in like a triangle form, and then the first one goes in the back to keep it going that same direction. So we migrate the right way with all the wind changing and all the temperature. So that's very important. And I think for a leader, because he's in a vision, the vision needs to be so big that it's not like, and we have to obviously celebrate the small rewards along the way, but the vision is so big, it's like a moving towards goal, right? It's not a moving away goal. A moving away goal is kind of like I'm going to put something simple, like when you lose weight. Either you're losing 20 pounds or I want to get fit and I want to feel good in my body. I want to feel great. I want to be able to pick up my kids, I don't know, or I'm able to do things and not get tired. This is like a moving towards goal, because when we have a moving away goal, like losing 20 pounds, you gain them, if not more, right? It's always like that. So for a leader, he has to have a vision, and he has to have a moving towards goal. So they're always evolving. It's always growing and transitioning to something new. And as a leader, I always recommend them to focus on themselves a lot, because they tend to forget themselves because they're such in a big position, but people feel your energy and people want you. It's kind of being an alpha leader as well, like they're looking up to you. So you have to
Exactly.
walk the talk. So if you're saying, okay, guys, go take a break, you need to take a break too. So I saw the most leaders, the ones that really know self-care or self-worth, not the arrogant ego, like really they know their worth. They have more risks to fail and not worry about it, and they bring that also in the people because they walk the talk. They tell them, focus on who you are, focus on that task. If you fail, it's fine. We're going to go next. So walk the talk and be something that they inspire to become. That's very important.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I experienced many small signs of how much people respect and follow leaders. Not only good leaders, but sometimes bad leaders too. But yes, as you mentioned, to be a great example is really crucial. And the other perspective is that you mentioned like inspire others. But probably as a leader, you should be aware of that your guys are going through on that change also. And it can be really great if you are aware of that, and if you spend some time to understand that and even help them go through on that change. So this is the two perspective I would recommend, as you mentioned, to be self-aware and go for what they literally want to do, know themselves, but at the same time be aware that the other guys are doing the same. They are exactly they are going through on that. And if you are managing or leading a group for a significant time, you need to probably consider that.
Yeah, and also it's important to note that each person is a leader. That's why, like, he could be the leader of the leaders, but he has to make them understand that you're leaders too, right? You're leaders
Right.
of your own life, you're leaders in your home, in your community, they have other things going on. So it's important that I inspire you become also a better leader as well.
Yeah.
There's no competition with leadership, you feel it.
Yeah. Do you have any other topic probably we could touch on?
When we were talking about transition, I remember you asked me how is it to transition to Dubai specifically.
Yes.
Because I moved a lot of countries, right? And
Yeah.
you told me Dubai now is this big place, everybody's moving there. How is it looking like? And what do you recommend, if we want to move to Dubai or something like that? If you want, we can talk about that if it's something that would interest the audience.
Yes, probably because in Hungary right now it's a kind of question whether you want to stay with the country or not. So there are certain periods when young people tend to try themselves somewhere else. Probably right now it's not that popular that it was, but it's an option. It's always a kind of option. So probably it would be great to hear something about your experience. What does it really mean? What does it really take to go to somewhere else?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I was gonna think about that as well. So for me, I moved to a lot of the countries and I thought maybe I'm an unstable person. That's why. And because I was always focusing on the how and I was focusing on the end goal, right? The old mindset, like only when, only when. But now actually, as I discovered who I am and I understood my values and my purpose, which is also to help people for them to become their best version of themselves and live a healthier life, is that I'm a location freedom person. Because as I evolve, I change country. Like if the country is not providing what I want at the moment, I will change. I'm someone who likes change. For me, my only constant in my life is change. So I move a lot. My family is everywhere, so I'm kind of used to it. But for example, when I was in France, Reunion was a French department. And for me, it wasn't the place for entrepreneurs, France, because of the taxes, because of all these things. So Dubai, for example, when I decided, it's very important to see how is the country going to help you and how is you going to help the country in a sense, how we can evolve together. So that's very important. Now, a lot of people are moving to Dubai specifically, especially entrepreneurs are moving here because of there is no income tax at all here. And corporate tax started, but it's 9% after you earn $100,000, which is still okay. And you can put your own salary. So you can even have less than that. So there's always a way around it. But the thing is that I love about Dubai is that if you're an entrepreneur and you have a vision and you're a high achiever, it's the perfect place for that. If you want to be an employee here, you have to ask a lot of questions before coming, not because it's bad, it's because you don't have the retirement and all these things that Europe provides. For example, the country, because in Dubai, either you achieve or you go home. You know, it's for high achievers, this place. So either you have your own company and you're growing and you can afford to stay, or you're a good employee and you're performing at your best, so the company keeps you. Because the company can fire you every single day. You're disposable. It's like, because everybody's coming here. So, you know, it's different than the socialist system in Europe. So it is important. What do you want in your life? Because moving to another country is not easy. It is hard because one of the biggest struggles that I had moving to different countries, I lost my sense of identity because I felt I needed to integrate. You know, when I went to Europe, I wanted to become European. I went to France, I want to speak good French. And Lebanese people are good in that. That's why when you meet Lebanese people, they don't have very strong accents because they know they have to leave their country. But Italians, they love their country. And when they move, they never change. They're always an Italian living there. Even if they live 50 years, I'm an Italian living in Hungary, like forever. And I definitely saw that difference, you know? So having your identity is the most important thing for you to have. And if you're young, especially with social media now, you tend to get lost. Who do I need to be to succeed, to survive? So always focus on who you are first. As we said, values. Why am I doing this? Have first your inner value, understand who you are, understand why you're doing this, and then see the how. See how that country can help you. Because it's not easy to move. It's hard. As you said, transitioning anyway in the same country is difficult. You know, you're alone, even if you are in the country that you know the most in your life. So if you're doing it also in another country, it's much lonelier. It's very lonely. You have to understand their customs. And when you're moving to a new country, I always recommend learn the language. You can never be in the country if you don't know the language. It's impossible. Like Dubai is English, yeah, but because I know Arabic, for example, anytime I have a issue or whatsoever, and I call the police if I need to, they speak Arabic, they speak English, but if you speak Arabic, it's way better, for example, you know? Like if you go to Hungary, you have to speak Hungarian, it's way better than English, you know? It's different, the experience. But don't lose your sense of self. That is very important. I want to tell everybody. Don't lose your sense of self. Always focus on your identity. Don't forget where you're coming from, but you don't have to stay the old person, right? Like me, I went to Europe. I wanted to be European, but I'm an Arab at the end of the day. I'm a Lebanese girl. I have specific things that won't change, you know? So when I embraced who I am, actually, I felt much happier. But when you move to a new country, know who you are first, know why you're moving, and then go there. And then change and become who you want to become. But don't let it affect you. Let it be an extra in your life, not like you know, because I know immigrants, when they move, they want to prove their position. And we're all gonna do that, especially if you move from countries that are lesser to better, okay, kind of vibes. Like if an American moves to Dubai, it's different from someone from India or Lebanon or these countries. I see it here. It's really different. So, and there's a lot of, you know, this with the racial discriminations. It's not so big, but you do feel it a little bit in certain areas. So it's important to understand your value, know your worth, know your why, and move. And know that you can always change. Don't worry if it's not working. Don't suffer. Don't struggle. Don't wait for someone else, like we said earlier, right? Don't wait for someone else to give you permission to live the life that you want. Start the change. If you're scared, don't worry. Hire a coach before you do any big changes outside. Don't take an emotional decision. Take a logical one. Because emotional decisions are easy when you're angry to take a decision and you regret it. Don't take an emotional decision. Stop, hire a coach, have a few sessions, get that clarity out of the way. As you said, Peter, someone who doesn't know you. So they're unbiased, non-judgmental, safe space. They're professional. That's what they do for a living, helping people in your situation. You got your answers and you go for it. And then you're good.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, we also agreed that we will talk about what would you say to yourself before moving to Dubai?
God. So if I think before Dubai, I think, yeah, saying before Dubai, I would tell myself to be more, I think, patient. I think growing up, I've been really hard on myself. So I think being more compassionate, self-compassion goes a long way, because at the end of the day, you can only depend on yourself truly. And it's better too, because you can only control yourself, right? So you can only depend on yourself, and creating an inner world that is safe, that is not judgmental, that is beautiful will go a long way in your life, because we tend to have a bad inner world and expect the outer world to fulfill it. And that is horrible, because no one is going to save us. No one is going to give us enough love that we need. We give it to ourselves first, and then we give more. You need to fill your own cup, and then when it's overflowing, to share it. It's not an egotistic thing. Honestly, it's not, because when you focus on yourself, you're a better person to be around. It's like, because it doesn't change who you are. If you're a good person, you will stay a good person. If you're a bad person, you'll stay a bad person. It's kind of like money, right? Money doesn't change anybody. It just amplifies who you are.
Right,
if someone
exactly.
say cheapskate, okay, who doesn't want to spend, if they have a lot of money, they would say, oh, maybe I'm going to lose it all. I don't know. I have to keep it. They're going to save it. And people who is already generous, it's going to stay generous, because you need money to help other people as well. So that is very crucial. What I will tell myself is self-compassion, focus on yourself first, love yourself, very important. And yeah, just be patient. Patience is virtue, and inner calm is a superpower.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. It was really great. It was a really great talk. And at the end, how would you summarize this podcast? How would you what were the outcomes? What have you learned? So how would you end the podcast?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I had such a great time. I didn't feel the time fly. I think we've been an hour or so together, and I didn't feel the time. You create a beautiful space for the person to express and to share, and you give such a beautiful energy, even if we're on Zoom and we're like completely far. I'm in Dubai, you're in Budapest. It's like another part of the world, but you're very welcoming and with the encouraging and a beautiful energy. And the second thing that I learned is that we could be two different people. You're a man, I'm a woman. You're from Hungary, I'm Lebanese. Different age groups, different backgrounds, different everything, and we have so much things in common. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that we all have traveled so much and have seen so many people. And at the end of the day, we're all similar. We're all trying to figure things out. We're all trying to be better and create healthier lives, healthier families, to be successful as much as we can, and just to be living a good life, And I think we're all going through the same process in life. I think that's the thing. We have so much similarities as humans, then we give credit to ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a really great idea, and thank you very much. It was really great to talk to you. It was great to me how we went from how to do the transition, how to do the reinventing, but we touched also on why and what can be the results. So I really enjoyed the whole journey from that title to the end, exactly. So thank you very much. It was so great. So you are so powerful. Tell us a little bit about how anyone can reach you if they feel they want to talk more about your process and your coaching practice.
Of course. I mean, I'm on the socials like everyone. So I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Vanessa Moussa, and also on Instagram, Dr. Vanessa Moussa, and Facebook. So it's easy. You can find me everywhere. And on my website, if you want to, it's drvanessamoussa.com. So Dr. Vanessa Moussa everywhere.
Great. Thanks a lot. It's really easy. Hopefully they will find you. Okay. Thank you very much. It was really great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you.
The title was How to Reinvent Yourself. However, we talked a little bit more about the why. The why is pretty important. If you are aware of that and you are also aware of your values, the how is much, much easier. If you are interested in topics like this, subscribe to my channel, visit my website, put your questions in the comment section. Contact me to have an experience how you can reinvent yourself.